Welcome back. In this lesson, what we're going to do is configure vNet peering. Now, what vNet peering does is allow you to seamlessly connect Azure virtual networks to one another. Once those networks are peered, those virtual networks actually appear as a single network for connectivity purposes. Any traffic that's routed between virtual machines that reside on any of the peered networks, that traffic is actually routed through Microsoft's backbone infrastructure. Azure actually supports two different types of peering. It supports vNet peering, which is what we're going to do here, and it supports global vNet peering. Now, vNet peering is the connection of vNets within the same Azure region, whereas global vNet peering allows you to connect vNets across Azure regions. All of our stuff resides in the same region, so we're going to do basic vNet peering. What we're going to do here is peer our simulated on-prem environment with our vNet Az1. So to peer these networks, what I'm going to do is select vNet on-prem. We'll start here. If we scroll down on the overview page, we can see the option for peerings under settings. So we'll click peerings, and then we'll click add. What we need to do is give our peering a name here, so we'll call it on-prem-Azure. You have two deployment model options, Resource Manager or Classic. We're going to use Resource Manager. And if I know the resource ID of the virtual network I'm trying to peer, I can select the option here. I can check the box and then supply the resource ID. I don't need to do that because what I'm going to do here is go into my pay-as-you-go subscription, and I'm going to select the vNet Az1 virtual network. This is what we're going to peer with. After selecting our virtual network that we want to peer with, we need to configure virtual network access settings. If we hover over the icon here, we can see that what we need to do is select this option if we want to allow communications between the two virtual networks. Since we're peering the networks, it's typically implied that we want those networks to communicate. So we'll leave this set to enabled. However, if we want to configure forwarded traffic settings, we need to turn on the ability to allow forwarded traffic from the vNet on-prem to vNet Az1. Hovering over the icon here, we can see what this applies to is traffic that's not originating from inside the on-prem vNet. We don't want to allow forwarded traffic, so we'll leave this disabled. Lastly, we need to determine whether or not we want to allow gateway transit. If we hover over the icon here, we can see that configuring gateway transit allows the peer virtual network to use the virtual network gateway that's already defined on the network you're configuring. We're not going to use gateway transit for this particular lab, so we can leave this box unchecked. Clicking OK begins the process of adding the peering. And if we go ahead and refresh here, we can see the peering status now shows initiated for the on-prem Azure connection. It also tells me who my peer is. Now, the reason this says initiated is because we haven't configured peering on the vNet Az1 side. So let's go ahead and bounce back out to our dashboard and go into our vNet Az1 virtual network. And what we're going to do is repeat the same process. We'll scroll down to peerings, and then we'll click add. And then what we're going to do here is we'll give this peer on this side a name. So we'll call it vNet Az1 to on-prem. Again, we're going to specify the Resource Manager deployment model in the pay-as-you-go subscription, and then we're going to select the on-prem network. We'll mirror the settings that we did the first time around, enabling the virtual network access settings, disabling forwarded traffic, and leaving the last two options turned off. We can go ahead and click OK. If we refresh our screen here, we can see that the new peering is displayed and it shows a peering status of connected. If we bounce back over to our on-prem network, we can also see in the peering section that our peering status is now connected. So what this means is that our on-prem simulated environment is now peered with our vNet Az1 network. The reason that we did the peering for these two networks is because later on, we're going to deploy some VMs in our Azure network that need to communicate back to the domain controller hosting our simulated on-prem Active Directory. So now that we have the peering configured, let's call it a wrap here, and I'll see you over in the next lesson.